As we deal with Mark's Gospel, the 7th chapter, we get into this confrontation between the Pharisees and some of the scribes with Jesus as the disciples walk and pick some food and eat it. And so the Pharisees are coming to Jesus and saying, they aren't washing in the proper manner. Well, what's ironic is in the chapter before that is you have the feeding of the 5,000, and I'm sure that those people didn't wash in the proper manner before they ate. Well, the sense of this washing is really that setting apart for those who are the religious leaders and their proper preparation for their leading. And what happens here with the Pharisees is that they're trying to, they become consumed with making traditions a priority. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that traditions are bad. In fact, in the Lutheran Church, we are very traditional, and those traditions serve a purpose. And what they do is they help us to make sense out of our life. They make sense out of our daily life. They make sense out of our faith life, our religious walk. Because what they do is bring a system of meaning, a system of belief around it to shape that understanding and how God infuses those things that we do. But also traditions, as they work in the church, they maintain an appropriate practice. It provides some clarity. It gives some direction. But there's also that element of consistency. That when you go from one Lutheran church to another, or whatever your tradition you might be, many times you find because of that consistency that worship reverberates with you. There's that understanding that you can easily slip into a different congregation and that worship will resonate. It's sort of as it puts the thing in place, in the proper place, where it sets it apart from the ordinary and infuses it with how God wants it to live and to breathe. But the problem with traditions is sometimes the practice forgets the purpose. Just a few examples. Do you know why the creeds were written? We say them week in and week out, at least in the Lutheran Church. We've got the Apostles and the Nicene Creed, and once a year we do the Athanasian Creed. But they were written back many, many years ago because of the false teachings, the heresies that were around, to respond to them. The one I thought of when I was preparing this message was, why do we stand when we sing stand up for Jesus? Is there a reason behind it, or is it just because we sing the words stand up? And another one that we have received from the Catholic Church is when you genuflect, when you make the sign of the cross. Why do we do that? Sometimes the practice forgets the purpose. It's where we take the external measures of our performance and we let them override. In fact, we let them trump the internal marks of our faith. It's as if when you make the sign of the cross, do you go to the left, do you go to the right? And we get all worked up about that. No, you were sitting during the gospel when you should have been standing. And we begin to let those external measures of our performance override anything else that matters about the faith. And we begin to draw lines of distinction. We begin to determine and define who's in and who's out. And what we end up is we develop our own sense of religiosity. And if you don't follow in ours, then obviously you're pushed to the side. Oh. And the damage we do then is people are pushed to the background. Or maybe they are cast out of view. Because we hold that practice more important than bringing faith to people. It's a matter that the correctness takes precedence over compassion and care. what we end up doing is what Jesus spoke to the Pharisees about. We set aside God's command so that we could hold dearly onto our human traditions. Ultimately, what we do is we abandon God's mission to reach people because we are so desirous to cling to our churchly conditions. We're so busy with duty that we lose touch with God's concern. That's the first take. Next, take two.